Hello, hello. How do you go? Everybody here? All right, let's see. Today, let me go back to. Okay, how's everybody? Welcome to today's show. What I want to do in today's show is tell you a story. It's a good story. It ends with what I've said will happen here. A pretty dark attack, but it was a nice evening and it was pretty interesting. Me and my buddy, my wingman, we met these two girls, and we ended up meeting them at the mall and leaving with them and going through an adventure. It was it would make a good movie. So like Halloween or something, but it's no laughing matter, really. I mean, it really happened when I think back. Changed my life. So a lot of people have experiences. When we talk about out of body experiences, astral travel, different realms, energy levels. People talk about energy points in the body, which physically are regulated by the glandular functions. Did you know that? There are clusters that correspond to each chakra point in the body for different frequencies. But, so a lot of people experience different things, senses, instincts, direct, touch or focus with the other realm or something. And several people complain. Well, even the churches have people that are exorcists and people that are possessed and things. Some of them may be actual cases where I guess they find out when they go. Some of them are false positives, but it's a topic people talk about, especially if you're aware of consciousness and spirituality. Then you're going to know how to talk about that kind of thing. So what I wanted to tell you about was I was 19 or 20 years old, and I lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and I lived with a buddy of mine that I had met in college, and we decided after one semester of college that we were going to start a company. We were going to sell these electronic parts. It was actually what do you call them? Surge protectors that you plug into your. Now they come in your power strip, But this was back in 1980s, Computers were just out, and you had to have a power strip because you thought if you got a spike, it was going to blow up and melt, and spent good money on your computer, But so we used to go out and hang out. We would go to this mall, and we liked to play games. You remember when you used to go to arcades to play games? People that are my age, we used to go out to the arcade at the mall, and all the malls had a game room. Like if parents took the kids shopping, the kids would just run down to the game room. That's where you met the girls, That's where you hung out with people. And me and my buddy, we were good at this game called Tempest. I don't know if you've ever played, Tempest, the one that goes around the different geometric shapes and you fly through the tunnels. And those little red crab things go around and flip on you and eat you, and you. We used to be able to play that for limitless amounts of time. I would do the button and he would do the knob, and we would just sit there and play, and we would just look around. And so one night we're in there, and these two girls come up, and they were watching us play, and they started talking with us. Anyway, so we ended up leaving with these girls, and they were driving because me and my buddy, we walked. We lived about 10, 12 blocks from the mall, crossing the railroad tracks over a little field, and then the highway, and then there it was. So it was a walkable thing, within just casually walking and talking. Within 40 minutes we were there. We used to do it a lot on the weekends, especially when it was snowy and really cold, because we knew the trails to get there, and we just brought our big coats. So we get in the car, and this girl's driving, and I'm sitting in the back seat with my date, and he's in the front seat, and his date's driving, and we're going out over town. She's gonna take us home, I guess, or we were gonna go to their house, but they lived in our direction. So we go driving down into this neighborhood, and this girl, she brought it up. This totally came from this couple of girls we met. She goes, "Hey, do you guys want to go see where a witch's cult hangs out? It's a witch's church." And then we were like, Yeah, let's look at it. We were just thinking, oh, we'll go watch and see this building with horns on it, all dark and black with skulls laying on the. You picture this gruesome Halloween picture, and we were young and immature. We were 19, 18, and sure, she's driving, she's fun. She brought it up, and we just thought, haha. And then we went by there, and she said, "That's what they say." And I said, "Who says?" Anyway, it was like the rumor. You know how remember the movie Edward Scissorhands with Johnny Depp? He lived up on the hill, and all the kids were scared of him, like on Halloween, like in the cartoons. How the kids don't want to go trick or treat at the house of the creepy evil person up the hill that eats children and stuff like that. So I thought of a song today. I would play Jesus Just Left Chicago. No, but when we drove by that church, she got up there, and we drove around past the front. It just looked like a normal house. We drove up the alleyway, and there were some birds in the backyard that were literally dead, laying by the fence, upside down. And all of a sudden, I'm in the back seat, and there was ice in the alleyway. Not solid, but there were patches of ice everywhere. It had just stormed a couple of days before that, and deep snow, and so you're driving in the ice ruts, and suddenly she just floors it, and she's spinning on the ice going up this hill in the alley. And I leaned forward. There was this sudden rush of energy that came over us. It was just like this. I don't know how to explain it. Like if you've ever all the hair goes up on the back of your neck, and you feel like something just flew right through you. That just gave you the chills, like a wind. What do they call it? The rustling wind or something like that. The cult name of it. But have you ever felt that? And I felt that, and I leaned forward to her. I said, "Did you feel that?" And she goes, "Fuck yeah." She's like taking up. She goes all the way up to the top of the alley. She turned left, and she took off down this boulevard. And we were in Idaho Falls, Idaho. I'll show you where we were at. Let me go to scene 2. Let me get the map. This is a map here. Let me make sure you're looking at me. Yeah. Now this map, this is at downtown Idaho Falls, Idaho. Let me show you for people who are watching this outside of the state of Idaho. Here's the United States. It's just east of the Rocky Mountains. Kind of in the middle still. There's a canyon. Yeah. I went to school in this town called Rexburg. And me and a friend went there one semester, and then we decided to move to Idaho Falls, which was the biggest town nearby, and his grandfather's house. And we lived in the basement. And let me show you where it was on this street right here. I'll show you the street. I'm not going to point to the house. But there's this J Street between this boulevard and this civilian park. I lived in this neighborhood. And I lived within that neighborhood. This is the Mormon Idaho Falls Temple. Let me check my connection. We're still good, excellent condition. We're live, right? Doesn't matter, it'll be recorded. Alright, so this is where the Mormon temple is. If you've ever seen pictures of the Mormon temples around the country or the world, this is the Idaho Falls Temple, and J Street is just literally 2 blocks from the Mormon Temple. And then right across, this is the east bank, this is the Snake River. Remember, was it Evel Knievel was going to jump the Snake River somewhere in Idaho? This is Idaho. And I worked at this, I lived in this neighborhood in a basement, and I worked at this round building. This used to be the West Bank Hotel. This is back in 1983 or 84. 82, 83 maybe. This is like a 9 or 10 story building. And inside it used to have like a equivalent to a Denny's, like a breakfast restaurant. And it was on the west bank. This is the west bank of the river, this is the east bank. that's where this happened. Just in this nice little neighborhood, just 2 blocks from the temple, where we found this other house they were talking about was in that same neighborhood. So anyway, the next day, me and my friend get up and we walk to this main boulevard right here. And we walked back up there and we went and we walked past it. And we were just walking down the street. We used to take walks, you know, because back then we would we would put beer cans in our jackets and go out and drink beer, walk around, and just throw them in people's trash and dumpsters, you know. Drink while we walked around the neighborhood or whatever we were doing, if we went to smoke a cigarette or something. So we went back exactly to that house that that girl showed us, and then right as we walked by the front door, there was this man that walked out, and he had a hat on, a big black coat, and he looked at us, and he kind of stared at us, and he did some kind of hand gesture or nodded. I remember he had really thick eyeglasses on. And then that was later that night is when this happened. So we just walked away. I thought, wow, that was creepy. I think he saw us. And then we ended up walking back up the alley to see if the dead birds were still there, and they were. So after we looked at those birds, maybe he saw us out a window walking around the back too and wondered what we were doing circling the block. It must have been obvious to him that we were clued into something that he was, or where it was. So that's all I can attribute this experience to. Because nothing ever evil had happened in my life as far as forces in contact with me personally, spiritually, personally. So, what were we doing that night? We, let's see, after the girls dropped us off, that was the next day when we walked up to that house and we saw that minister. Then what happened? So it was that night, the next night, we were out with his cousin, Robbie. So the 3 of us were in this Chevy pickup. We were driving down that boulevard. And then I suddenly had this flashback, like in front of me, of police lights all over the place and us getting pulled over. And I thought, oh, I got to get out of the truck. And we were within 5 blocks of the house. And I said, I'll just walk home and I'll see you guys when you get home. And they were like, okay. So they pulled over. They later told me the next morning after this experience that they got pulled over within 5 or 6 blocks after they dropped me off, or even less than that. It was like 2-3 blocks away. Right after I walked off through the alley, they got pulled over. And back then, I think we had a 6-pack of beer in the truck, but I think each guy only had 1 beer. There was no open container laws back. This was in the early '80s, I don't think. But we were the bad guys, you know. We were rebellious Mormon-raised kids. He was from California, and I'm from Houston. But we wound up in this town because of the college we were sent to by our parents, basically. So that's where it happened. So anyway, so I walk through the alley. I get back to the house in this neighborhood. I go down to the basement. I go to my room. I look on the cot. I was actually sleeping on a cot. He had like a regular twin bed, and his cousin had another twin bed, and then I had a pretty nice cot, pretty taut thing. And I would lay there. And when I got there was folded clothes. His grandmother had done our laundry, and so I was putting my clothes away. And I go to the bathroom, and I walk down this little short hall in this bathroom, full bathroom down there. And I flip on the light, and it was like something was there, and I saw it for less than a trillisecond. And it just dissolved, just like when I snap this picture in and out. I don't know if you see this when I go like that. That's called the loop, the visual loop, the feed loop. It just, something went like that and then came right back to normal like we are now. And I thought, what? And then it kind of looked like the visual effect of when they do the transporter room on Star Wars, where when they disintegrate into particles and then they just fade away in a filter. You know? It's like something just went into a filter effect where I couldn't see it. And it creeped me out because like I thought it was literally like some kind of like when you're looking at a horror movie and they do that, they transport, or the kind of a what's that Predator movie? The Predator. That kind of concept. So I quickly turned the light off and I shut the door. And I went back to the room, and I laid on the cot. And then suddenly the room, it just seemed like it got really dark, and I just felt like this really cold, negative vibration. And I remember I looked up, and I was in a basement, and we had the rectangular windows at the top of the ceiling. And I looked up, and it was really dim. There wasn't much moonlight coming through, but it was a clear night, and it may have been a full moon. And so I'm laying there, and the room just got darker. It got to a point where I couldn't even see the window, and there was a swirling black mass in the room, and then I just suddenly couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. There was no communication or anything. It's just like this energy just came in, and it's kind of like sleep paralysis, like when you try to run in your dreams and you can't move. Sort of like that. But I was pinned. It's actually scarier than what I'm giving it energy to now. I'm being light-hearted with it, because it was traumatic. It was enough to change my life. And I was sitting there just like oppressed with this just dark, evil force, literally blacking out light. And so I rebuked it. I remember my mother said that would happen to me in my life. She actually taught me about that and said, if it ever does, you just call out the name of Jesus, Jesus Christ, and just command it to go away. Called rebuking. But that's the biblical way, isn't it? Isn't that what the Lord taught? So it left, So that was it. That it just immediately things were better. The room was clear. It was brighter. I could see the moon coming in the window. And yeah. After that, I went home. I went back to Houston, and I told my parents, I'm going to go to college. And I ended up, because I left the one that I didn't like. I didn't like the one in Idaho. But when I came back to Houston, I started studying at a local college. And I wound up getting my master's and stuff. But that was just my freshman year at college, when I took a semester off. But I'm saying, me and my buddy, my wingman, Jeff, we just got ourselves tangled up into something. And it was all that girl, she's the one that said, hey, you want to go see this evil thing that's right in our neighborhood? And we were like, yeah. That's where it started. And it ended with something like this. But some people have all kinds of stories like this, some of them are drug related, like people have a bad trip and then something happens to them that turns out to be more real than imagined. Some people have it with during trauma or something, or even near death. I don't know. I haven't heard of any near death experience that's got a demonic attack tone to it. It's always someone's perception of where they went and what was happening around them or what they saw. But I don't hear anybody saying yes. And then I was taken and tortured and prodded if you were bad, or I went straight into a palace made of gold. But that will change your world if something like that happens to you. You're 19, 20 years old. And then I ended up going on a mission that same year later on, and I talk about a change. Saved up some money and took off to Argentina for 2 years. And that's when I was in the church, which I'm not now anymore. Since YouTube came out and the internet and with Google, back in the 90s, there's so much to learn if you just stick with the internet and stick with the sites. You can start with Wiki or the Encyclopedia Britannica. A lot of news channels, sites, a lot of websites for different companies, historic places and events and foundations, and government programs, Smithsonian, history, anthropology. You should look up, the founding fathers, what they believed in, what their religions were, and the churches they started, and the towns and cities and counties and states and things like that. But these were all elite, prominent leaders, military leaders and political leaders, banking leaders of our time, motivational, popular people. But when you look at it all, I found connections that made me just leave my organized church, let's say. I'm still Christian, but I just don't believe any of the organized, incorporated churches can be of the Lord. That's just a personal opinion. So let me play for you Jesus Just Left Chicago. Jesus just left Chicago and he's bound for New Orleans. Jesus just left Chicago and he's bound for New Orleans. Amen. Then down to Mississippi, through the forest and the pine. Took a job through Mississippi. Muddy water turned to wine. Jog through Mississippi. Muddy water turned to wine. Amen. Then out to California, to the forest and the pine. Oh, take me with you, Jesus. You won't have to see him in person, but he'll see you just the same. You don't have to see him in person, but he'll see you just the same. You don't have to worry, 'cause taking care of business is his name. Something like that's how it ends. So, you know who plays that? That's ZZ Top. That's Billy Gibbons. He actually plays a lot of gospel type music. He's kind of like Elvis did, you know. He was like, what is it? Hot, blue, and righteous. Hot, blue, and righteous. An angel came to me, and I heard when I was down on my knees, down on my, what was that? Down on my knees. Can't remember the ending of that. It had a little hook trick to it. check the stats now. See what's going on in our chat box. Okay, 3 concurrent viewers. Thank you for coming. Any questions today? So I told you my story. Did you miss my story? You'll have to see it when it's recorded when I end. You can go back and see the beginning. I told my story, so now I'm just open to chat, whatever people would like to talk about. I told my story about when I was a student my freshman year in college, and I had a demonic attack with a buddy of mine that I met at school, living with him in a basement, in his grandparents' basement. But if anybody's ever had something like that happen, or they know somebody, or you know not to mess with evil things, or for one thing, just not believe it's real. If people just say, a lot of people, when you inform them, they just say, well, I don't believe in that, or I don't want to talk about that, or I don't feel comfortable talking about that, or I don't want to know anything about that, or I shouldn't. But the thing is, it just happens to normal people like you and I. So if you've seen that or had that happen, any other paranormal experiences? Did you leave your body? Any near-death experiences anybody's had? What about vivid dreams? What do you call them? Lucid dreams? Let's talk about the paranormal. What about remote viewing, or communication from beyond, or any kind of telepathy abilities? Telekinesis? Are you able to move things with your mind? There's 3 viewers, I believe I have. Can anybody start? Ask a question or start a topic. All right. So that was Billy Gibbons. There we go. Let's play some Jimi Hendrix. I'll fumble through it. I wasn't prepared on this one. This is Red House. What does it go? It goes... That's where my baby stays. Yeah, there's a red house over yonder. That's where my baby stays. Been a long time since I've seen my baby. It's been 99 and 1/2 day. Yeah, it has. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. My key won't unlock this door. No, it won't. Yeah, wait a minute, something's wrong here. My key won't unlock this door. Yeah, I got a bad, bad feeling. My baby don't live here no more. still got my guitar. No, it wasn't. There it is. There we go. Well, I might as well get back over yonder, way back up across that hill. Yeah, well, I might as well get back over yonder, way back up on over that hill. Yeah, 'cause if my baby don't love me no more, I know her sister will. Her sister will. Don't ever forget that. Be nice. So let's go back and see who's in the chat. Hello? You have one concurrent viewer. And that's probably myself. So anyway, that was Jimi Hendrix, Red House, and so I told you my story. I played Jesus Just Left Chicago and Red House. And next time I do a live stream, I'm going to play for you Johnny Be Good. But I guess that's all I'm going to stream today. I was able to tell a story. If we don't have more than one person here right now, I'm just going to end it. And I'm going to keep doing this as much as I can every day now, committing to it. All right, thank you for coming. Please hit subscribe and come back and spread these. You know, if you see something or hear something you like, share it on Facebook or one of your social media accounts, please. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Have a blessed day.